the way I see it, the United States is fundamentally heading towards a Rubicon that cannot be uncrossed.
Rubicon. Oh my God, you're terrible. Welcome back. Circling the Nets. This is what a time we have here at Circling Seattle Sports. Another weekly show here for you. We are back with Circling the Nest. Some scheduling stuff, like largely on my fault, not Jake. Uh, Ended up we didn't record a show last week. It's also been kind of quiet in Seahawk land, right? There hasn't been a lot of squawking or cawing going on. But over the past week, I mean, there's been some stuff. Like it's funny to say, talk about that and talk about importance of the news, and then talk about the Pro Bowl games, and it's like, yay, flag football! It's the
Woo!
trivia segment. They had, oh my God, I they were doing this. Oh, because Russell Wilson was in it. They had it on the TVs in the Kraken media room, and I was like, "Is this on? Is this year?" I was like, "How did Russell Wilson make the Pro Bowl?" I was like, "What a life we live." Um,
Yeehaw.
like that's part of the thing in some of the discussion, right? Like, especially obviously it has been over the last few years as we've really gotten away from what the Pro Bowl is, or was at least.
Should
Um,
be, perhaps.
sure. Uh, and we've gotten more to where we are now. Where again, I saw players doing trivia as part of the Pro Bowl games. I was like, "What are we like?" You think Sean Taylor was doing trivia before he blasted that punter? I don't think so. Like, like I'm talking about this, and we're going to talk about the three Seahawks that ended up making the Pro Bowl. And normally
Yes.
it's like, "Oh, cool! Like that's a cool thing to have when your career is said and done." But like, I don't know. So we'll look at it. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Leonard Williams, and Devon
Spoon.
Witherspoon were all named to the Pro Bowl games roster. Devon Witherspoon was the player that was on the initial Pro Bowl games roster. Leonard Williams got added as Jalen Carter couldn't make it for the Eagles because he had to go and play in the bowl where they beat
Double.
the Chiefs.
The game.
Um,
At the big
so
game.
yeah, we can't say the Super Bowl, the big game. Um, that happened. I'm dying because,
Because you're a hardcore Chiefs fan.
I'd
You
rather
can't
be
accept
sad.
that brutal loss.
No, no, don't even put that bad on me. And then JSN made it as a roster replacement because Terry McLaurin is quote unquote um I say injured because, I imagine Terry was just like, I'm good. I don't need to do this.
He died,
Um,
actually.
well, Jesus. Yeah, so JSN and Leonard Williams were added to the roster. Joining Spoon, who was the only Seahawks named initially to the ballot. If it was
Hmm.
just Devon Witherspoon, that would have been the fewest Seahawks at the event since 2010, when none of them were invited. So that's
Ugh.
nice. Um, it was kind of funny. They ended up with six last year, even though they didn't make the playoff. I don't know. Kind of funny to think that you miss the playoffs and you have six players go to the Pro Bowl, but hey, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's one of those,
Um,
like, gosh, what year was it? 2001, 2 Mariners? They had a
oh
million
yeah,
All-Stars.
like you were the roster.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Devon Witherspoon makes it back to back years, and the Seahawks have had three or more players at the Pro Bowl games for 14 straight seasons, which is pretty remarkable. So that's, I mean, like I think Jake, when we did our pass rushing review, you were like, "Oh, well, you forgot about Leonard Williams." Not forgetting about him this time. I
Exactly.
think he probably should have been the one who deserved the Pro Bowl nomination, like
Yeah,
in first place, right?
for
Like
sure.
Spoon's great. He obviously makes more of an impact than like the interception numbers, for example. We'll say
Hmm.
um, JSN had a good year, but obviously wide receiver position is pretty stacked in the NFL, and he started to make his contributions to the team more around mid-season, really.
Hmm.
Like if he was having the same sort of pace, he had a much better year, I would imagine.
Yeah,
um but just kind of glad that Leonard was added to this, just again
exactly.
because
And he really deserved it. And there was talk about him being a snub, like, um, those couple weeks when he lit the world on fire, like that game against the Jets. There's a lot of talk about him
yes.
doing that as like a revenge game for not being Defensive Player of the Week. which he had earned then. So yeah, really happy for him. He really deserved it. Looking forward to another big year from the big guy, Mr. Thick Six, they call him.
Yep.
But yeah, and I mean, yeah, like you said, JSN really started lighting it up around midseason week 5, 6 or so. Really great. I mean, he got a touchdown in the Pro Bowl, 46 yards.
Yes. Well, that was, oh my gosh. Then there was I didn't pay attention to this, even with the Seahawks, just because again, and everyone, again, this has been the talk for so long. People always go, well, what has the best, Pro Bowl or pro, like All-Star game, and like
Mm-hmm.
NBA All-Star game, just I don't. That's just a mess. The
Yeah.
NFL Pro Bowl game is a mess. Like the
All-Star week, though,
MLS
that's where it's at.
All-Star Week, like legitimately has something,
Mm.
with the home run derby and well, of course, the celebrity softball game, Jake JoJo Siwa,
I love the celebrity
Seattle
softball game. A couple
JoJo
years
Siwa.
ago, when Brian Cranston just going all out every time, dude loves
Oh
ball.
yeah, yeah. There's that. So yeah, I
I
just didn't pay attention to it. Did you watch?
no.
Okay. I was like, it was like maybe you saw it.
I should have lied. Yeah, no, I watched every snap. I love the Pro Bowl. I like offense. I don't like that much offense.
No, of course not. Oh yeah, no, around the Buffalo, no, I'd say the Rams overtime loss. Yeah, 180 yards, 110 against San Francisco after that, 77, 74. Yeah, from that stretch, from the loss at home to Minnesota, to well, the Rams overtime loss to the loss at home against Minnesota, he never went under 70 yards. And then
Dang.
the game, Jake, the Chicago game, he only had 32 yards. And then against the Rams, when they were just kind of out of it already, he had
I
9
move that Chicago game should be expunged from history.
from the record.
It should be damnatio memoriae, which was an ancient practice where they used to remove any reference to a certain figure that they didn't like. Like they would go back to any monuments with their name and chisel out their name, so it's just a blank space. We should do that to the 6-3 Chicago game.
What
What
happened at Soldier Field on December 26, 2024?
There was no Soldier Field on December 26, 2024. Yeah, and again, Devin, there's been
Big
that.
cartoon of just we don't speak
Guards, seize him! Seize that
him.
game!
No. Jake, I don't know, Jake. He's just
He's gone. They got him. But yeah, no.
Oh,
and
that's right.
Boone, he really did deserve it, as much as, like you said, the interception numbers
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah,
huge. But
I
that's
mean-
mostly because they bring him in all the time as a pressure guy,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
QB spy. So
That's another thing too. Like his
Yeah.
versatility, like it's kind of fun. I'm sure you wrote about it, but watching him sack a quarterback, like it's just a
Mhm.
ball of energy running at you. He's not super big or anything. It's just he's gonna throw his entire body at you like he does in run support.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also exciting too if you look at it. What I was gonna mention first was Jackson Smith-Njigba tweeting, "I'm retired," and I was like, "What the hell?" Because I had watched it, and I
Yeah.
click on the tweet to see if it was like a spam or something. And then the reply tweet, he goes, "From playing quarterback." I'm like, "Shut up!" Like, I was so concerned. I was like, "Are we having another Connor Williams-esque situation here?"
Oh
Like,
man, you know what's really funny is that it's totally not true too. Because if the Seahawks do have a great season next year, they're gonna do JSN
trick play.
quarterback trick play for sure.
I know
Because
that's what I
the
was thinking. I was
people
like,
the people
wait a minute.
yearn.
When was
I
the last
yearn.
time? When was the last time we got a wide receiver throw?
Happened against us, Buffalo game.
Yeah. Oh God, that Buffalo game too. I wish we get expunged from the record, but
A
we'll
lot of
always
games this
have
year we'd
the-
like to expunge.
I was gonna say is like if they had won the Super Bowl, maybe it would hurt less, but they obviously didn't. And I was like,
No.
well, at least last year we beat Philly with Drew Lock. So what was that? Yeah, I don't know. Like, oh, what I was gonna say, like having your two top picks in last year's draft in the 2023 draft in Spoon and Smith-Njigba both, make excuse me, the make the Pro Bowl. Like again, the Pro Bowl isn't everything anymore. It isn't what it used to be, but it's still nice to see those two players get that recognition. Two guys
Hmm.
who hopefully should be Seahawks for, if not their entire careers, the vast majority of their
Ideally,
career.
for sure.
Yeah. So I mean that part's nice at least. So I mean, again, outside of this, it's just kind of funny to talk about the Pro Bowl games. It needs to
Yeah.
be acknowledged still, and especially for these players. Like if it was, I don't know, who's someone random we could throw in here. Like they throw Kobe Bryant in here, who was good. Don't get me wrong, he had a solid season, but not better than these guys. Then we'd be like, I don't even know if we'd spend this much time talking about it, right?
We wouldn't.
Like,
I mean, we were just
uh,
trying to give flowers to the players that were, consistent last year.
yeah, yeah. So that's a good way to put it. We'll go over here to, you know, something interesting, kind of, because for so long we talked about the offensive coordinator pursuit, and then we had to record over our episode because they ended up hiring somebody when we didn't really expect them to, and it wasn't a guy that we really talked about or thought that they would be hiring.
Right?
Um, the offseason, there's going to be some movement, usually with your assistants and stuff like that. And as well, with new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, I'm sure he'll want some of his guys, and we're seeing that take place currently. The Seahawks did lose quarterbacks coach Charles London, who left for a similar role with the New York Jets, who are without a quarterback now, as they've decided to part ways with Aaron Rodgers, which is a good decision. But the Jets organization, let's
I think
just
he's got one more funny year in him.
where though?
I don't know. Tennessee.
Yeah, they need a quarterback. Uh,
That could be really funny. I don't want to remember those Titans.
quickly. Oh my God, that's crazy. Quickly, it was kind of funny. There was this guy, I don't remember his name. There was a GM candidate who interviewed for the Titans job. You can tell me if you've seen this, where his proposal was to trade the number one overall pick and start Will Levis all year. And they did not go with him as their GM spot.
Really? They
Yeah,
didn't. Hmm.
I know.
Fascinating.
It's,
Well, we'll see how Quinn Ewers works out for them.
oh no. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna pivot now. Yeah, so you lose Charles London, you lose another Charles from the city. I mean, I just continue to prove my value.
Mhm.
um,
Charles
uh,
Seattle, they call him.
People are saying,
Many
um,
people are saying, folks.
I don't know who, someone named Jake. Um, but yeah, so they lose Charles London and kind of and with the offensive line coach position Scott Huff, who had come in from University of Washington with Ryan Grubb last season,
Hmm.
is moving on, so he won't be there anymore. Grubb has gone on to Alabama to join Kalen DeBoer. I don't believe Huff is going there as well. Either way, there was the offensive line coach and the quarterback coach spots to fill, and Clint Kubiak has done that with two of his former guys, in Andrew Janico, who is a quarterbacks coach, and John Benton, who will coach the offensive line. So,
Hmm.
again, in any sort of like somewhat major coaching position, right? Whether it is head coach, coordinator, like they'll typically bring their own guys in, right?
Hmm.
And so we see that, here,
Yeah.
excuse me, with Janico. Janico could be coached for the Vikings in 21 when, as we talked about a few weeks ago, Kubiak was the offensive coordinator there. So he obviously has some ties with him. Benton is a little older than 36. He's 61. He worked along, I think this is not at all serious commentary, but I feel like for a
Janucco was
position like,
also with. I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, with a position like offensive line, I feel like you kind of want an old, rough
Yeah.
coach to coach you
Here's
up.
what
Like
we're gonna.
you
All
gotta be
right, here's what
better.
we're gonna do. We're gonna block those guys real good. All
Like
right, ball.
unless
Get
it's a
there. Yeah.
former pro who just retired, like I don't know, like I say Jason Kelsey. Like I don't want
Yeah.
some young sprung guy. Hey guys, we're gonna that zone blocking. You really been like no. I want a big man.
Yeah. Here's a big good old boy. But yeah, this is. I think these moves are definitely expected, and the press conference after
Mm.
Grubb was released, McDonald talked about how whoever they bring on as the coordinator is going to have control over his assistants. Um, so yeah, I'm not really surprised that Kubiak's brought in Janoko, who was with him with the Vikings, and was also with him at the Saints just last year. Um, and Benton worked with Kubiak's dad, I
Dad,
think.
yeah.
Yeah,
This
in
is where it's
Houston.
kind of interesting looking at this. He was the offensive line coach for the Texans from 2006. I was 5 years old. To
Ooh.
2013 under Kubiak's father, Gary. His longest stint with one team during his career. He's been with seven teams since 2003. One other note here that's interesting. He was the offensive line coach for the Niners under Shanahan from 17 to 20. Um, so, that's I don't know. He's more interesting to read because it's like with Janico, it's interesting to just look at him and say, yes, like as you mentioned,
Yeah.
with him in Minnesota, like obviously there's a familiarity there. Like I was saying, with bringing in your own guys, you want that familiarity.
Hmm.
Uh, Obviously, he worked with him last season with the Saints. He knew his dad, so I'm sure he was around him anyway.
But it was
Um,
also with the Saints too.
yes, yeah. So I don't know, kind of.
Just bringing his boys, which we can expect.
It's
I'm
it's
I
it's
think I'm a
gonna
little surprised
have.
that he's brought both guys from the Saints, right? That he's not got anybody else that he'd
Oh,
rather have.
outside, yeah. And that's something too that's interesting. I mean, I was gonna say like I don't know. I don't have the Pro Football Focus numbers on the Saints offensive line. I don't imagine it was super great, but I also
Hmm.
don't imagine it was like horrible either. But
Probably not as
obviously
big
with
of
the
a problem as
Seahawks,
ours.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. And there will be new faces for Seattle in that offensive line, whether that is in free agency, or going younger in the draft. He's gonna have his hands full with Benton here because so much of what I hear, and I think we talked about it in weeks prior, probably when we did the offensive line overview, was like much like the coaching staff and familiarity is important, offensive line familiarity is important as well. I mean, you can have a mediocre offensive line, but if they work together and they're used to each other and they've got that chemistry, I feel like they are better as a unit for it and not just, okay, well, we gave up 5 sacks this game. We need to rotate the guards. We need to, move someone over to tackle. Like, too many times there's been so much movement over the last few years for the Seahawks on their line, whether that is because of injury, because out of necessity, because of how bad someone else has performed. Like you haven't had that consistency uh, for them. So I'm wondering here with Benton, like John Benton's gonna have his hands full to
Hmm.
fix the run blocking, which ranked 28th in rushing yards per game this past year. Um, I mean, I mentioned the 49ers tenure for Benton because obviously those 49er teams had good offensive lines. Blocking for the backs that they've had, protecting Jimmy Garoppolo at the time, right? So that they can orchestrate the Shanahan offense.
Hmm.
Um, ranking second in rushing attempts and yards in 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl. And first in rushing touchdowns. I'm sure Mike McDonald heard that and said, "Bring him in, bring him in. We're good."
Bring
So
him to me.
why did he become Kermit?
Uh, Coach McDonald here.
Oh my God. Okay. So, okay. Saints ranked 15th in rushing yards per game last year. Okay, I mean, middle of the pack. They had some
Yeah,
offense. Yeah, Alvin Kamara wasn't there full time.
they're about with us
Um,
in terms of pressures. We give up 151 pressures. They give up 146. So just five fewer.
okay. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like with position group
But yeah,
coaches, some of it depends on the players that you've got, right?
yeah. I mean,
So
and the Saints were like famously plagued with O line injuries last year. I say famously, infamously.
and famously,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, anytime I think of the Saints and offensive line, I think about Seattle trading Max Unger for Jimmy Graham.
every time.
Just about, yeah. I remember I was in
Traumatized.
middle school when that trade happened, and I told a teacher, and they were like, "Wait, how did you find out about this?" Because I was not supposed to have my phone out.
Ooh.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I think
It was revealed to you in a dream.
that move is more interesting than the quarterbacks coach one, just because like someone on the Seattle sports radio, I think it was Stacy, said this. It was like you can't talk about Geno Smith's failure as a quarterback without mentioning what he's dealt with for the offensive line. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's I mean, like
Well,
that's
what have you been saying for a little
all yeah.
while?
So, that's why I think this hire is more interesting than the quarterback's coach because like I feel like especially at this stage of his career, we know what you're gonna get from Geno Smith. We know you get a
Yeah.
guy who, is capable of leading the top offense, can air the ball out, can
Mm-hmm.
scramble if he needs to. Like decision
Ink's, yeah.
making can
Ink's
be
kind of dry on
better,
him.
yeah. So you haven't really seen him with a good offensive line. The new Geno Smith, like, 'cause I don't think
Mm-hmm.
those Jets teams that he was on had the best per se, with how
It
much he
was,
got hit.
it was the
So
Jets, so yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm interested in seeing, and what's also interesting is seeing it. And an interview that Benton did in 2024 was that his general philosophy favors athleticism. What we do is run off the ball. Ooh, yeah, okay. I don't know. It
Is
just
there
this
any football philosophy that doesn't favor athleticism? Like, is there any strategy you could come up with that
you don't need to be
favors
athletic,
wiry, like slippery little guys, just little dudes?
slippery little guys.
Like, is there a football strategy that you can run out, 12,
I was gonna say Darren
12 point
Sproles,
guards
but
and
he was
just
in
go?
lettuce.
Yeah.
Buff point guards. That's kind of how the Detroit Pistons have been built. Anyway,
Yeah, it worked out
you look at the
famously for them in
Pistons.
their sport. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It is interesting. You talk about there's something too here that um Benton says that he views the left and right tackle spots as equally valuable, which sure, I mean, blind side tackle important, but yeah, I mean, um, but also with both Charles Cross and Abe Lucas entering the final year of their rookie deals, like they're gonna have to make decisions. Uh, hmm. Again, once again, Jake talking about the offensive line brings us to the fact that they'll just need a completely new interior line.
What
Probably.
they
I
should
mean,
do,
again,
here's my advice. They should have players that are good on the team.
okay. Well,
That's what I think needs to happen, and then I think they'll win more football games. I am a genius.
that's why we do this show.
This is the kind of
Um,
insight that you come here for, Forks. Forks? Folks. Sorry, I got Salt Fork on the mind.
oh wow, I forgot about South Fork. Yeah.
How dare you? Um.
Um,
Anyway, speaking of pass rushing,
mm,
Leonard Williams.
yes. This also could play into how they address the offensive line.
Oh yes, true, 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 true.
The Seahawks, yeah, the Seahawks are kind of in an interesting cap position. They were in a more interesting cap position before this news broke. It was kind of in the middle of the night, on February 6th, that the Seahawks, well, at least in terms of when it was published by Over the Cap, the Seahawks restructured the contract of defensive lineman Leonard Williams after bringing him back this past offseason on a bigger deal. That interestingly enough, I think he was in Japan when the news got announced. So he flew back from his vacation in Japan to Seattle to sign the contract and take like the photos, and then go back to Japan for his vacation. Which, hey
That sounds
man,
great. You know what?
that's a
Love that for
guy like
him.
guy that leaves his vacation. You love to see it. But yeah, so the move creates $14.1 million in cap space for 2025. They had been about $27.5 million over the cap before that move, and now they're about 13.4 million over it. They need to be. I mean, this is the time of the year where obviously it's quiet in a lot of sports, but uh, the teams need to get cap salary cap compliant. So it's nice because they went and they took 18.745 million of his salary for this upcoming season and turned it into a bonus. Oh, and they added two void years. Ah, yes, void years are something that I forgot about. It's void years, Jake, and
Yeah.
deferral money are two things that over the last few years I'm like, what is I just don't
So
understand it.
I yeah, like I'm in a similar boat. I'm not sure I fully have enough like legal or not legal brain, but economics brain to understand void year like as a concept. It seems like kind of dark magic word voodoo, um, where these years don't exist, but they kind of do. It's strange, but you know what? I'm happy for the team.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not sure
mean,
how this affects like Williams, like personally, like how like when he gets his money. Um,
oh, well, yeah. So the void years, they take obviously they for the 2025 season, his salary goes down, his cap hit goes down 29.1 to 14.06 million. But 2026, his cap hit is now 29.6. Um, yes, and then it bumps up by 4.686 million for 27 and 28. Those two seasons are the dummy years added to help spread out the cap. So they spread it out, they kind of pushed it ahead to deal with later. Um, yeah, they have the third least cap space available by any team even after this move.
jeez.
They have to be under the cap when the new league year begins on March 12th. Um, so yeah, I imagine. Oh, then it just talks about Williams and how he'll probably be a Seahawk after 2026. Yeah, I imagine so. Um, so that's good that they did that, but it's just really interesting to kind of see where Seattle is in that regard. Like how well, hey, this has been a running joke for the last few years. At least they're not the Saints and they're not in cap hell. Like,
At
I
least they're
don't,
not the Saints is really funny when we just poached three of their coaches.
I still don't get it. Don't understand. Like, again, we talked about this when we talked about the offensive coordinator hire. Like,
Yeah.
his numbers weren't like amazing in any department, and he was just kind of average when his numbers were like any good or his better numbers, like rushing the ball. And I'm like, well,
Mm.
so I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know, Jake. Like,
Maybe he's got the juice, you know? Maybe he's just got that certain je ne sais quoi that makes him
yeah.
fit in Seattle. Maybe he just likes the gray.
Well, John Schneider's going to need some je ne sais quoi to fix this cap space because, you look at the guys who've got the top cap hit for this team right now. Geno Smith makes sense. I almost said DK Lockett. Nope. DK
Wow.
Metcalf makes sense. Tyler Lockett, they're going to need to address that. And it's obviously, there's been so much discussion about that already with, how he's probably played his last game as a Seahawk or and this and that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure if he came back on a more team friendly deal or they fixed that, like it could be like that would be the best case scenario for me.
They could just
Um,
defer his money 10 years.
there you go. I mean, other teams have done it.
Mm.
Shohei Ohtani, Tyler Lockett, you know, amazing athletes.
Tyler Lockett,
I've
two
never
way.
seen Shohei Ohtani toe tap for a touchdown. Have you?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
I've seen him score a touchdown.
What?
Seen him score 7 runs in a game, I think.
Oh, okay. um, so those,
Sorry, this is a football podcast.
all generally make sense. And then you get to Draymond Jones, who, his sack numbers were largely down this year, and his production kind of took a hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uchenna Nwosu, who has been very, valuable to have when he's healthy,
Yeah.
um, has been hurt a lot as well at $21 million cap hit. Leonard Williams, who we've just talked about, Noah Fant making 13. Then we get to Rayshon Jenkins, and I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't be on the team this year after, uh, you got hurt and then you basically lost your roster spot. Right? Well, not roster spot, your starting position with Kobe Bryant. Roy Robertson Harris, who they traded for from Jacksonville, makes a higher cap hit than a guy like Tariq Woolen or Julian Love, which is fascinating. So it's interesting that we've talked about the pass rush and kind of the front seven. And there's some dead weight effectively there, which is kind of mean to say, but also like you need to be critical, right?
Yeah.
You've got those guys like Robertson Harris, like Draymond Jones, who are making more money and producing less than, say, a Boye Mafe or a Derek Hall did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Or like
I
AJ Barner has produced more than Noah
yes,
Fant.
yeah. So like I figure those are kind of the more obvious players to kind of look at, whether it be, having them being a cap casualty, or they do rework their deals, right? What do
Mm-hmm.
you thankfully like if Seattle does make some of these moves where they have dead cap, they have the third lowest dead cap number in the league at just a little bit over 248,000. Um so yeah, I don't know. What do you think about how they might want to clean this up? Like if you're John Schneider, you're putting on your John Schneider shoes here.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing here? Ooh, Spot Trek has a GM toy, so I can play with this while you're saying this. So I can pretend I'm you and actually make these. So what would you do to help kind of clear this up?
Oh man. Oh man. I think how much did you say Noah Fant was making? 13 million?
13 million this season.
Oh man. I think
13
you
and a
got
half.
13 and a half. Okay. I mean, that's you kill Noah Fant, you're basically good.
So you're saying release Noah Fant.
I'm not saying release Noah Fant, but I'm
Okay.
saying because he's only 27, right? It would feel
28.
it's 20. Oh, that's right. Time passes. Um, yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't know. Do you restructure Noah Fant the same way you did Leonard Williams, right?
You can do
Uh,
that.
I think that's kind of what
Oh, there's a button
I want
here
to
to
do.
do that. Okay. You want
Ooh,
me to do
magic
that?
button. This is Charles plays with a new website, the podcast.
Yeah. You want me to do that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So that
Okay,
that drops his cap hit to 7 million.
okay,
That's
beautiful,
great.
beautiful. We're halfway
Okay.
there.
So now you're 5 million in the negative right now. So you got to
Okay,
create some more. But
okay.
that's a good start. And especially like you
Um,
said, with Noah Fant, like actually just get back to the podcast part of this and not just me clicking
yeah,
buttons.
yeah, yeah. We're
I'm
just.
like, ooh, Papa's Pizzeria. Let me play toy. Like, I think that is important because yeah, like you got Noah Fant in that deal, the big Russell Wilson trade in terms
Yeah.
of what one of three players that they got with Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, and Drew Lock. So he's the last guy on there. And Noah Fant, I think coming out of college was supposed to be this like revolutionary tight end, and he's just kind of been pretty average.
Mm-hmm.
And so when AJ Barner is arguably going to be a better producer than you, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So
I
I
mean, here's a
think
blocking tight end that went out and caught 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. So I think that kind of puts the pressure on Noah Fant this upcoming season, because
Yeah.
it's a contract year, right? So yeah. Okay. So we restructured that. What's your next move here?
I'm looking at Tyler Lockett, right? Because
Okay.
I like Tyler Lockett.
Mm-hmm.
How much is his contract on your toy?
$30 million cap hit for 2025.
See, okay, we just
Do
need
you want
five
the
million, right?
options here?
Yeah, yeah. What are the options? What do we got?
There's the conversion that we've done. Well, you can uh add some bonus void years, and his cap hits 22 million. Then there's a second conversion where you can give him the minimum base salary and a roster spot, and 4 years void, which is 17 million. You can summarize an extension, which is complicated, and we could work on that. You could release him, which creates $13 million in dead cap. You can assign him and apply him as a post June 1st release. Am I bleeding? I'm bleeding
Whoa, you're biting your lip that hard?
with this. Yeah, you can assign and apply him as a post June 1st release. There's a
Mm-hmm.
quick trade option where you can simulate for no players but picks in return, which again is the $13 million dead cap. Or um, there's like we can actually create a trade here.
I think we can. I think we can just win this with restructuring.
Okay.
I mean, okay, so more likely in the real world, I think Tyler Lockett probably gets traded for.
You don't think he gets cut?
I don't think he gets cut. I think he, because he's. I think you can get a good value out of him because he's a good player.
Mm.
I think you can trade him for some interior linemen, perhaps.
Mm.
Um, we have a dearth. Is that the word? Does dearth mean you have a lot or none?
Oh, I thought you were the smart words man.
Only sometimes. Hold on.
Oh, dearth is a scarcity or lack.
Oh, okay. We have an undearth of wide receivers. What's dearth antonym? We're turning into etymology. Let's see. We have an abundance. There we go. That's an easy word. We have an abundance of receiving talent right now, I think. And we need the line. I think that's probably your best bet. I mean, offensive linemen are probably going to be cheaper than Tyler Lockett anyway, and I don't think you want that 13 million of dead cap. I think you want to avoid that as much
Okay,
as possible.
so hold on. I'm gonna do this. I did a quick trade. I hit the button quick trade because I
Okay.
don't have the offensive line guys in my head. Did a quick trade. So that gets Tyler Lockett's numbers off the books. Now you've got $11 million in total cap to spend. Are you doing more? Are you happy with just the fact that you converted Noah Fant's numbers and brought his cap number down and traded Tyler Lockett? Are you doing anything with Draymond Jones? And like the big ones that are obvious here, because again, your top five, three of them are guys that will contribute and do contribute a lot already. And
Hmm.
Gino, DK, and Leonard Williams. Are you doing anything with Draymond Jones and Uchenna Nwosu, who aren't like super old and decrepit at 28 and
Yeah.
29 respectively, but just haven't the production numbers haven't been there?
Yeah. That's true. I think you probably hold the other than be happy with yourself.
You'd huh?
I think you can hold
You're
Yeller
gonna
than
live
be
with them?
happy. No, old Yeller. Have you ever read that? You ever read that book?
Oh, so you're releasing?
Yes.
Okay, releasing Draymond Jones. He goes bye-bye.
And that fills
Uh
up your slots as
oh,
well.
and then Uchenna Nwosu?
I mean, let's see. How much did he play last year?
Ooh, not a lot.
Yeah,
Well, he
exactly.
came back towards the end of the season and just I didn't, you didn't hear his name as much.
You really
Um,
didn't.
mm, 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 mm. Yeah, 14 total tackles, one sack. The numbers aren't great. Excuse me, two, four, six games in total.
Yeah, I don't know. You can find him like 50 college players who can do that for you.
Okay, so there's two releases. Oh, oh well, yeah. Again, we have to be compliant by March. Okay, so now you've got just under $30 million created in cap space.
Well, there you go. I mean, this is I don't feel good about this. Feels bad, like on a personal human level.
Sure.
Um, but I think if we're pretending to be GMs, right, we got to be at least 20% evil in order to manage a team.
So is John Schneider 20% evil?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if he was gonna if he was good, he would be. No, 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 no. Yeah, that's what I am saying that actually. But he's still 80% good, you know.
Yeah,
But you
it's
just got to be able to
so
have that heartlessness
yeah, and that's
in
the
any
thing
kind
though.
of
It like that's what
management
it comes
leadership
down
position.
to is there's a few things, and this obviously goes to what we do with the Mariners as well, right?
Hmm.
Where a few things come into play when you're you need to make space, you need to create money, which is important for the Mariners.
Oh yeah,
Um is age, production, and then the contract details like and sometimes it's position play like position groups like we did with the pass rush. Like again, you're getting more production from Boye Mafe and
hmm
from Derek Hall, who are on like rookie deals essentially already.
yeah,
So wow, if you cut Roy Robertson Harris is no dead cap, that's great.
hmm.
Fascinating. That they probably realistically do that. Let me do that as well. Let me just sorry, Roy. Let me just I've already created $34 million in cap. This is wow. John
Yeah.
Schneider, I'm coming.
Does he have your number?
So
Does he have your email address?
Not yet. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't think it's the most difficult situation to be in because I think there are some obvious players that you could go to, whether it is cutting them, trading them like Jake did there with Tyler Lockett, or releasing them. Like their structures are there, and some of them they're more obvious, you know. Um, because I mean, then it gets interesting in terms of, are you getting ready to give a Charles Cross an extension here, right?
Hmm.
Extension. Oh, I can customize this. I don't know, dog. Um,
You're having too much fun with this toy.
I'm gonna spend some time later tonight messing with that. So yeah, but oh, I don't know. I think I'm happy with the fact that again, like there are scenarios, there are options for what John Schneider and this team can do to clear
Yes.
up the necessary cap space. Not only, just to be cap compliant, but also to add players that become available for them, to obviously improve that offensive line. And maybe if they are feeling like they want to give some extensions out to some of their players that they've drafted who are coming up either at the end of their current deals, um, or that will, so that they can, help themselves better cap space wise overall. So I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on kind of the cap space situation or them reworking Leonard Williams' deal before we move on to our last topic?
I don't think so. I mean, I think what we've just shown is that there's certainly a lot of options, and that even though it looks grim, I think this can still be a team that like solves their cap problem and leaves enough room to improve and to keep a lot of the good players that we want to see again next year.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I think generally it's not like the end of the, again, we're not the Saints, but like Jake mentioned, they did bring in a Saints coach. So
We're by the transitive property, we are becoming the Saints.
no, I don't like that.
There,
So
but
we'll
for
move
the
on
grace
to
of God, go I.
we talk about something a little bit depressing with the Saints and their cap hell to something else that's just kind of sad. Mike Holmgren was up for the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year. And it's interesting because the Pro Football Hall of Fame has kind of moved to a different voting structure. There's a different voting process, because the NFL has kind of gone to a process that helps ensure that the membership in the Hall of Fame remains elite, which sure. This comes in the wake of 32 new members, I think, in the past 4 years, which sure, but like,
Hmm.
you know, um, one of the changes to this voting process was the fact that the total number of possible selections is now eight. Um, and that the coach nominee is in a group that included the contributor nominee and three senior candidates. I think about like how in baseball there's like the old head
Yeah.
category, right? So it's like not only are there like limited selections, you're now for Holmgren, you're lumped into a group that includes just a bunch of other stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously Mike Holmgren didn't make it. We would be talking about something different if he did.
Yes.
Um, ooh, okay, interesting. Um, and it's tough because going forward, I think I read a really sad quote after it because he was like, I think that was my best chance. Because going, excuse me, forward now, there are some other coaches who are gonna eat up the vote. It's not like in the past where I think the voters, from what I'm reading, just said yes or no. See, that would help Felix get it.
Hmm.
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 Right? Like,
This is a
I
football
think it is.
podcast. We can do baseball later.
I think it is more like how the baseball uh, Hall of Fame voting process is now, because you've
Hmm.
only got a certain number of votes, and then you're in that category with other people in it, with
Yeah.
other not like non-coaches. Um, yeah. Oh, coaches were voted on separately as simply a yes or no vote. Um, and now uh you're competing for votes, in the coach, the senior, the contributor group.
Hmm.
Um, so that's not great. But yeah, going forward, it's going to be tough because Tom Coughlin's waiting, Mike Shanahan is waiting, George
Yeah.
Seifert is waiting. Oh, and then Bill Belichick is waiting. Like,
Oh,
you see what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
not ideal.
It's really not.
Um, so it's tough because not only will, because uh what is it? Holmgren's got what, the one Super Bowl? Uh yeah, he's got one win in the Super Bowl. He's got a loss in one, obviously. But
Hmm.
Coughlin, Shanahan, and Seifert all have two Super Bowl wins. So if you're using that as your metric, it's like, well, you're already down a peg, and you're already down several pegs.
Yeah.
Uh, so those three push you back. And then when Belichick is in, he pushes everyone else back a different, like,
Hmm.
so I don't know. What do you think about? I've been yapping a lot about this. What do you think about Mike not making it and his chances going forward?
No, I'm good. You're yapping. It's a podcast. The point is to yap. Um, I don't know. I don't have too much investment in the Mike Holmgren cinematic universe, being as I am a little baby child, as opposed to you, decrepit old man who is a full 24 hours older than me. Gosh, like I can imagine being as old as you. Yeah, I mean, it's a little sad for the big fella, Big Mike. We got a lot of Big Mikes in Seattle.
Yes, we
Rip to
did.
rip to Big Mike Bellman.
Mike Bauman, no.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's tough, right? Because he is kind of on that like edge of um, his case kind of determines what the Hall of Fame should be. Should it be like the Hall of excellence, the Hall of very good? Like where is that line? And I think Holgram is probably right below the line where it is now, where it's like
Mm.
I don't think he just didn't quite have the certain je ne sais quoi.
Oh
Word,
God,
word of
there's
the
another
week.
tie back.
Word of the week.
Um,
Just that certain
yeah,
next level to like get in. I think he's just like the first casualty, of kind of the I don't want
yeah,
to say
it's tough.
standards. That's a brutal word.
I think a second Super Bowl really helps him in this regard if he were to win that Super Bowl 40, but obviously that game had its own controversy.
Yeah.
Fourth most wins of any coach in Green Bay Packers history. His winning percentage is only second to Vince Lombardi, which is pretty good. For the Packers franchise, for the Seahawks franchise, his winning percentage is second only to Pete Carroll. He's not bad. Um, Third best winning percentage of any coach in Seahawks history who coached more than one season. Uh, One of the things, another big thing with Mike Holmgren, one of only seven coaches in NFL history to take two teams to the Super Bowl, and his 13 playoff wins are tied for the seventh most in NFL history. Every coach with more is already in the Hall of Fame, other than the two who will essentially be first ballots anyway, in Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. So, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's also
Yeah.
interesting as Holmgren was the only person with Seahawks ties on the ballot this year as a finalist. Earl Thomas, you remember Earl Thomas? Was in his first year of eligibility, and running back Ricky Waters did not make it past the semifinalist stage. So,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see him make it for sure. I think he's kind of on. He's close to the bubble
Yeah.
is I think it's undeniable. Like he's close to the bubble. Whether you have him in it or out of it is up for debate, obviously.
Hmm.
But I really don't think that the voting process now gives him any help, in terms of
No.
maybe voters being a little softer to him as it goes on. So I don't know. It kind of looks bleak in that regard, and I hate to end the episode that way, but that's what we got for this week.
Wait, quick. Do you think Bill Belichick? Do you think Bill Belichick's going to be unanimous?
Oh, well, um, he should be, but
Yes.
like Ichiro Suzuki should be unanimous.
Yes.
So, I would say yes, but my knee-jerk reaction tells me that someone will be a hater. Like, so Tom Brady is going to pay somebody off and be like, "No,
No, I
no,
hate
no."
this guy. Yeah.
Be like,
Yeah.
you will not vote. Well, and then that was a thing too that'll I don't think it'll make it to our Mariner show because it doesn't really matter that much. But they revealed like almost all of the voters. Well, almost all of them came clean on their vote, and none of them were the guy who voted no.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
So
so
remain a mystery for now. Take it to his
that
grave.
is
Or their grave.
that is our Circling the Nest
That's the nest.
episode for February 10th, 2025, featuring talking about je ne sais quoi, my mouth bleeding, and me playing with a GM simulator, amongst other things. So until we see you next time, again, this time of the year it's kind of tough. You look at some of the key dates for the Seattle offseason, the NFL offseason. In 4 days, the salary guarantees kick in for Leonard Williams and Uchenna Nwosu. So Nwosu is interesting in that regard. Later in February and in March, we've got the NFL Combine. Early March, the deadline to use the franchise. The Seahawks haven't used the franchise tag hardly in a lot since I think 2010. I think they've only used it twice since 2010. So I don't think there's any real candidate for them to do it this year either. It's kind of the quiet time of the year. So,
hibernation, winter hibernation.
If things pop up, if we get ideas, we'll work on them. But you might see less of Jake. We might not circle our nest that much going forward. For a little bit, but we'll work on it. So, we got another show to record. Until we see you next time, take care of yourselves. Be well. Do whatever you can to make today a great day. Hey, everybody. Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Jen, what is Rough and Tumble for Circling Seattle Sports?
Your home. The home for Circling Seattle Sports.
I like it. Let's do one more take. Just a little bit.
Hey there, everybody. Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Jen, where's the home of Circling Seattle Sports?
Right here at Rough and Tumble.
Hi, Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble.
Glad to join you here from Rough and Tumble, home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love
Okay.
Up that out, Chuck. Okay, I'm ready.
Hello, everybody. Charles Hamaker here from Circling Seattle Sports with
Jen Barnes from Rough and Tumble. Start over.
I forgot what I was saying.
I think you waved in the first one.
We did at the end.
Oh, at the end. Okay, that's what. Okay, cool.
You just couldn't see our hands.
And now it looks like you're holding your hands, so that's kind of weird.
Here's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually have a little room to come this way too.
Okay.
Just no further than that. Okay.
Yes, Lieutenant Dan.
And go.
Oh, I think this time I'll ask you, what's the home? Where?
Yeah, say, where's the home of Circling Seattle Sports?
Okay.
And I'll be like, right here at Rough and Tumble.
Hand good?
Yeah.
Yeah, your other hand, put your fingers together just a little bit more. Not like that. There you go. It was just like...
Clawing at me.
Okay, I'm still recording, so go ahead.
Okay.
Start when you're ready.